Hey, my name is Peter Waygang. I'm the Secretary of the Citizens for Direct Democracy, and we've been bringing you a series of videos which we think you will find informative, if perhaps a little sort of shocking. Today we're doing the fifth one, and it is on the 2017 Budget and Business Plan. And once again, there are some surprising things about this document which disturb me at least. So let's get on with the slides and I'll show you what I mean. So here it is then, the 2017 Budget and Business Plan. It's more budget than plan, and you'll find that as we go through it. Now, this stuff must be clearly understood before we even get into the actual data. It costs a great deal of time and money to produce this document. It's 279 pages, and I presume a document like that has had very careful scrutiny, not only by the people who write it but also by staff, and at some point councillors should also have read it. There shouldn't be any mistakes of any kind. It's completely inexcusable in a document of this importance and this size and this cost, and it was approved by council, and it contains clues to the author's agenda. I want to stress that when you read reports, they tell you something about the author as well as something about the data in them, and that will be revealed as we go through. So the plan was written by the staff, for the staff, to be implemented by the staff. There's no entry anywhere in there for people. So, who's going to lead us in this new age? Well, let's see. Well, I'm blessed. It's a CAO. I half expected to see Andy Latham there, but of course any picture by anybody of anybody in this report is completely redundant. So what do we know about him? Well, we, that is the Citizens for Direct Democracy, have been unsuccessful in getting very much from Ron. A week ago I asked him for the text of the oath taken by the mayor at the swearing-in ceremony. They must have that on file somewhere. It's over a week. He's not got back to me yet. So the first chart then concerns the water and wastewater rates. I want you to look at this. These are very simple numbers here. Don't strain anybody. 3 plus 0 plus 3 is 7. 3 plus 0 plus 4 is 8. This must be the new math, I think. And another odd thing here, the water has a monthly base charge of 246, and then we get these other things, the consumptive charge and infrastructure, and then we end up with an annual water bill. Now clearly, either monthly is wrong, or annual is wrong, or they're both wrong. And the same thing comes down here. We have a monthly charge, an annual result. So this is sort of just downright carelessness. And the word consumptive, of course, should be consumption. I am not going to go through the document and correct the English syntax. Consumptive, to most people, is a person who is suffering tuberculosis. I will say that when they repeat this chart later on in the document, they actually change that word to consumption, so there is some hope for them. Well, waiter. There's a fly in my soup. The City of Kawartha Lakes is an exceedingly expensive restaurant, and we only dine there because we have no option. But when I find flies like that in my soup, I ask myself the question, how hygienic is the kitchen? How good are the chefs? Who makes up the menu? So these little errors tell me to be very wary of anything that comes out of that particular expensive restaurant that we know as the City of Kawartha Lakes. Now, to get to the details, the annual base charge is $4.79 for water. That's before we get any at all. And in the document it says that this may be increased. And the reason is interesting. The cost of water is so high that people have been cutting back on the use of water. So that's driven down the revenues they get from water. So now, in that case, they've got to increase the space charge. That is the logic. The less we use, the more the base charge will increase. And this water, the actual water, makes up about 55% of the bill. Now, I have personal experience of this, and so do the people in Port 32. A year ago, we sent in a petition about this very issue, the enormous cost of the water and the front loading. And then nothing happened. Then I made a personal presentation to council, and that was sent to the staff for comment. And still a year later, no action. And strangely enough, our presentation is referenced on page 228 of this report. But this is absolutely disgraceful. The thinking is appalling. We're going to get your money one way or the other, whether you use water or don't use water. Okay. Another thing you find in there is studies. They're very keen on studies. And we have studies for all kinds of things. This one I want to draw attention to. This is Lindsay Recreational Centre Heater System Audit and Lindsay Recreational Centre Roof Assessment. Why are we paying somebody $30,000 to assess whether or not the roof needs to be repaired? When I had my roof repaired, 3 roofers came and they told me what was wrong with it and what needed to be done and gave me an estimate. And if this does need to be done, why isn't it done by our staff? We have these other things, zone law, bylaw consolidation. Why is that not done by the bylaw department? Growth management strategy update. That's been put in there because nobody knows what it means, and you can write down any number you like there. Master fire plan update. The only reason that these costs are here at all is because they are not being done by a huge, highly paid staff. It's an absolute disgrace to take a salary and then give the work to somebody else and make us pay for it. But you see, this civic centre feasibility planning, the staff mean to have a palace. They mean to have a palace, but I fear it will be not for the mayor. Now, we all know this. This is a takeoff of Donald Trump, make the United States great again. This is to make Lindsay great. We know it exists. This is like Rome. All roads lead to Rome. All roads are going to lead to Lindsay. First thing you do, concentrate the power in Lindsay. In the old days, we had 16 separate little municipalities with power, political power, and could get things done. Now we have one, which really is a group that actually dictates to us. There is no democracy left in that one. There was a great deal of democracy in the previous 16. Move the staff to Lindsay. Now I know these 3 places, Verulam, Bobcaygeon and Emily, quite well. At the present time, the staff in Bobcaygeon is just 1. Verulam, I can't find any trace of it, and I think Emily has been bulldozed. So these 3 vibrant centres of democracy and getting things done are virtually no more. Staff have been moved into Lindsay. The services have been moved to Lindsay as well. Everything is being upgraded in Lindsay. Now the airport's a nice one. The airport for the privileged few, paid for by the underprivileged majority. Suburban development. There is some suburban development going on, and my largest reading would be 15 areas in the city, in Victoria County, which would be suburban areas for development. But 13 of them are in Lindsay. And this one, virtually nobody's heard about. The Logie Street Park, 3.3 million to develop a really beautiful park with lilac paths and all sorts of nice things. It's being built as a destination park. And where is it? In Lindsay. Very interesting. You can see the details on page 198. So what are the consequences of this Make Lindsay Great? Well, business people will prosper, especially those in the hotel and restaurant trade. People coming in to Lindsay to stay overnight or to have a meal or to go to that park or to go to the recreation centre to watch a hockey match. These are the people who are going to benefit very nicely, thank you. Now, the Days Inn was built just about a year ago, and it will be well poised to profit from any expansion of the attractiveness of Lindsay and the people who come there. Now, it happens the investors in this facility include our mayor. And in fact, you can find in the newspapers on May the 7th, 2014, there's a picture of the mayor at the groundbreaking, and this is what was said. Andy Letham, one of the 11 investors in the project, as well as both the general manager for the Lindsay and District Chamber of Commerce and Lindsay Agricultural Society, added there is a significant economic factor. Well, well, well. And for whom will that benefit? Now, not only does City of Kawartha Lakes have studies for its own purposes, but it gives $553,000 to Kawartha Conservation to carry out these. Floodplain mapping study, lake management planning, and so on. They've been planning and planning and planning ever since they came into power. I would reckon that over the last 10 years they've probably consumed $30 million of taxpayers' money, which is funneled to them through the city, and really what they're doing is panning for gold in the taxpayers' wallets. This is a huge sum of money for the average taxpayer to understand. It's something like 200 taxes from families who work very hard to get the money to pay the taxes. They go without holidays and they go without luxuries in order to get the money to pay the taxes so that these people can sit around and make studies. I'm not alone in this view. It happens that I found in that report that somebody went to the budget committee, and it's Mr. Frank Coker. This is what he says. He represents Trent Matters, and he noticed the past expenditures in the area, and that's the Conservation Authority, have focused on research, and now it was time to put the dollars to implementation. He encouraged council to fund implementation rather than research. And I'm with him. I want to see those guys out with waders and their sleeves rolled up doing something in those lakes. This has also come to the attention of the general public. This letter was fairly recent, and these people are complaining about the fact that people go around chopping down trees and doing whatever they like. So apparently in Lindsay you can chop down trees anywhere and shoot whatever you like. But it's in here. To my complete shock, I found out there are no bylaws to protect the trees and shrubs anywhere in Kawartha Lakes. And that's after the Conservation Authority has been bleeding us dry for years and years. So, here we have it. Some of you will have heard about the Bring Back the Walleye project. It's supported by Jamie, our Member of Parliament, and we did research, and we know that there's a good reason why the walleye have died off, and you would think that the Conservation Authority would have been supportive of this and got on board. This is to depict all the trees that have been chopped down, like on Front Street in Bob Cajun, clear cut for another housing development. And this is symbolic of the people in Bethany and Pontypool who have these wretched wind turbines marching across the skyline. They're not getting anywhere either. Why is it that this stuff is completely ignored while the City of Kawartha Lakes Conservation Authority plans and plans and plans? Now, giving away other people's money is reached a kind of a crisis in the United States, and Senator Rand Paul was speaking about this, and he made such a good case. He really says that you just cannot go around giving away taxpayers' money without a thought of what should actually be done with it. I just put this in here. I found this video extremely interesting. You could stop our video and you could copy this one here and paste it, and you see it, and you, I think, will find it very, very useful, and it explains a lot of the tribulations in the States and also in places like the City of Kawartha Lakes, where our municipal council gives away our money. Okay, there was another feature in this report. We have paid $150,000 for the redesign and enhancement to our website. This falls right into our concern about the Freedom of Information Act. This particular piece here is the Mayor's New Year message. Now, I happen to have made a copy of that, and now you can't find one. You can't find one, and I think the reason is that in here he made 5 statements, and we wanted information from them under the Freedom of Information. He said, basically, the council has made these particular decisions because of these particular reviews and information which was made available to us. And we have asked for that information and reviews, and we have not got it, and that was months and months and months ago. Now, as a challenge, I'll give anybody who's watching this a challenge to actually find this. You used to be able to type Mayor's New Year message, City of Kawartha Lakes, into Google, and up this would pop. You can't find it there, and I have been unable to find it on the city web page, although I have looked many, many, many times. Now, let's get into the sewer debt. Nice, smelly topic. This is what's actually in a report, and of course, it's written so nobody can really understand it. So I've redesigned it, and we will see what it now looks like. Okay, when you rearrange it, this is what you now see. How to handle the water, wastewater debt. We got a huge debt. It starts off in 2016 at 42 million. They repay about 3 million. They borrow an extra 10 million, and now at the end of the year, we are now about 7 million more than when we started. So they take that number and they put it down here, and they pay a bit off, and then they take a bit more out, and they get to this number. This number is magic. This number has been set by council, is the maximum debt that the water system can have. $49.5 million. So that number comes under here. Now, staff know they want to keep these the same, because they want to keep this at the maximum. So the rest of the stuff in here is just kind of fiddling around. So they just move this over here, take off some, put it back, and you see these numbers are exactly the same. We repay that amount, and we get a debenture for the same amount. So at the end of the time, we have actually repaid $21 million. That's just gone down the drain. And you imagine what good we could do with $21 million. The debentures we took out were $28 million. And there's where we started, and there's where we finished 6 years later. We've paid all this money, and we're no further ahead. So there it is. Pay this much to reduce the capital, money down the staff drain. Our debt is increased by this amount over this 6-year period. And this is a bit strange. The amount we paid back went up from 7% to 8.2%. That's a bit murky as well. In the same period, the people who were creating this mess, we paid them $250 million. And the taxpayers tried to pay off their personal debts. That's what we believe. Taxpayers believe that debt is a bad thing and you should pay it off. It would be a brand new idea for the city. Why have we not employed staff whose first priority is to reduce the debts of the city to zero? That's what we want. Their plan actually is to keep the debt at the maximum. And on top of that, they've just got authority to borrow another $25 million. End of the business cycle plan, we're worse off than when we started. That's some plan. These expenditures are in categories now, and they need some looking at as well. You observe that we actually spent this much on insurance or something, and actually it comes out to be zero. It's 0%. And you add those up, and they don't come to 100, they actually come to 99. I understand that. This is because they've given this to 8 digits of accuracy, and this only to 2. And these are actually rounded errors. But let's look at these things here. This is the personnel costs, $52.5 million. This, on top of that, is the professional, technical, and contract services. So in order to help this staff at $52 million to do their work, we need to purchase another $23 million worth of professional, technical, and contract services. That's absolutely amazing. All the staff at the senior level are all professionals. We have a whole technical group. We have a whole maintenance group for our vehicles. That should be zero. What should happen is if these people who are supposed to be doing this can't do it, then they should look elsewhere for a job. These two in blue, they're also very interesting. This is kind of subtle accounting we're getting into here. This one is money we collect on behalf of the school boards. We just collect it and give it to them. This money is actually provincially mandated. In other words, they say, guys, you've got to do these things. The province is telling us to do. And it's going to cost you this much. But in fact, they gave us $57 million to do it. So those two things are what we call flow-through accounting. And I'll show you with an example as to how that works. Let's just look at this blue stuff over here, all right? This is how I put money aside. For my taxes, $250 a month. For my hydro, $150. For water, $100. So that comes to $500. So out of my disposable income to pay these services, that is 50%. That's pretty easy. 250 is half of 50. That's 50, 30, 20. So that's fine. Now, you look at this and you say, that's a huge number. Now, no bureaucracy wants to put that kind of number in front of the public. 50% of your disposable income on services goes to tax. Now, this is where I make up a story. Okay? Same numbers. But here I've included my son. My son, and this is true, he recently went on a kayak trip down through the Admiralty Islands near Gononokwe. And he said, Dad, I've got a rather lot of money with me, and if I tip out in the boat, that will be lost. I'm going to give you my money, and you look after it until I come back. I said, that's fine. So he gives me $500 from his wallet, okay? I said, I'll tell you what, I'll put it in the bank, and when you come up next time to Bob Cajun, I'll get it out and give it back to you. So now, this is I've got this extra account called Sun. This now comes to $1,000. But look what happens to the percentages. This is now only 25% of 1,000. The percentage has gone down from 50% to 25%. And suddenly, it looks very good. Suddenly, it doesn't look so bad. So if you inject these flow-through accounts into your proper account, then you can create the impression that all is well with the world when it certainly is not. So here we are. Same chart again, and all I've done is to reduce the school tax here to 0 and the mandated programs to 0. Now you see what happens. Suddenly, this huge number here, 227 million, is reduced to 148. And so these are bigger proportions. And now we see that in total, we have over 50% of the money we pay in taxes, paying the salaries of staff or the people they hire to do the work for them. That's the true situation. This is a cunning trick, and it's not many people, I suppose, would actually notice that. So the people look at this and say, oh, that isn't so bad, and the council says, very good, we're past that. There are some other things here just which worry me a bit. I mean, when you have other expenses, what a big thing that other expenses is. 13 million in other loose change in my pocket. And this one here is the fleet and other applications. this is interesting because if you read the document, you go through page after page after page of glossy pictures of bulldozers and backhoes and all the stuff they want to buy, and that's all in there. It's a massive sum of money. I just want to end by having a look at the organisational chart. This is the first one. This is our CAO, and as you can see from the front picture, he's a very happy man, and he should be at $170,000 a year. But he has all this staff helping him do his job. And then down here, you have a special group. These are the directors. Now, if you take the Director of Public Works and you look up his chart's a huge chart. And Human Services, another huge chart. So we have this great spider web of people, all with strange names, like Strategy and Performance Officer. What on earth is a Strategy and Performance Officer? What does that person do, and is it worth doing? I did think I needed to add this because by the time next year comes around, we'll probably have another director, a director of aerial surveillance, because he'll be in charge of the spy drones which are coming our way. Apparently, the bylaw enforcement officers, when they drive the countryside, they cannot see if a particular garden or property is overgrown. And if it is, then they could give an order to clear it up a bit. But now we have a whole department who can fly a drone over there and say, oh, this person's grass needs cutting, and let's send somebody round to enforce it. And so we'll have a director, we will probably have 2 pilots for the drones, we will have a whole lot of new bylaws to do this, and the whole legal department, which is huge. We'll have to look at all the implications of that. Oh yes, this I can smell is another mini bureaucracy in the making, and I have a very good nose for smelling out bureaucracies. Hey, friends, we do not need this sort of nonsense. What we do need is direct democracy where people will govern themselves without all this bureaucracy, this messing about, these expenses and these strange pieces of mathematics which offend me and should offend you. I hope you will support us as we move towards the next election to get things changed once and for all. Thank you.